And we're live. What's up, guys? Thank you for coming back to another edition of What We Are Watching. I changed it to we because tonight I have my friend with me, Pete. Say hello, Pete.
Hello, how are y'all doing out there?
I hope everybody's doing well and safe at home and enjoying some good movies because what else can you do during this pandemic period other than watch a whole lot of movies, right? just not at the movie theater, unfortunately. So, guys, as you know, I get on here on Monday nights around this time. A little bit past 10 p.m. São Paulo time, because that's when I'm actually free. And I talk about what I saw in the past week. Sometimes it's something recent. Sometimes it's something old. As we see, I'm going to talk a little bit about 2001: A Space Odyssey. Anything that comes across my screen, down to wrestling, I like to talk about. But as I said in the last broadcast, I really like to work with people, and Pete's a really good guy to talk movies with because he's a mega movie lover, and he's also my co-host when we do the ranking films version of these podcasts, which are way longer. And I've been here trying to find time to edit down the super mega long podcast that we did on the Star Wars movies. So that will be up soon. And there's a Star Trek one that's coming after, which I took down from YouTube because we were too drunk. I don't mind if we're drunk. Because Pete, before you came on, right? You said you had been drinking a little bit, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm drinking right now. Like we don't mind somewhat drunk, but we were just way too wasted for the Star
Well,
Trek.
well, it wasn't that we were too wasted. It was the fact that the podcast was like 2.5 hours. So over 2.5 hours, of course you're going to get that wasted.
I
So
know, but
by the end,
we didn't get that wasted for the Star Wars one. I think we learned from the Star Trek one that we can't just drink every like
yeah,
as
I,
the
I
other
was
person is
stone cold
talking.
sober when I sold up for Star Wars.
Yeah, like I think we learned because I think in the Star Wars one it was like as Pete was talking, I was drinking. As I was talking, Pete was drinking. So imagine what there's like 13 Star Trek movies. We each talked
Yeah,
about each movie for 2 to 5 minutes. So you do that math, it adds up
it's
after
Star Trek's fault. It's Star Trek's fault.
it's Star Trek. It's that Romulan ale that we were
Yeah,
drinking
exactly.
that really screwed us up. So I think we learned our lesson, and in the Star Wars one, we were slightly more professional, not extremely, but slightly. So
Yeah.
I'm re-editing this Star Wars one and taking out all the moments where we're just like,
Yeah, because we went off on like social topics for at some
I
point.
know it was really
They're
insane.
like talking about what's happening in the world. It's like, wait a minute, this has nothing to do with Star Wars.
Oh God, or Star Trek. See, you did what I would did. You did what I did because when I was talking in the Star Wars podcast, I kept calling it Star Trek, and now you called it Star Trek Star Wars. But anyway, that'll be up soon, guys, and it's real fun. It's obviously a lot longer than this, and a little bit more tightly edited. But this is live, so live you're gonna get us as we are. I called Peter up last minute to join me, so I'm gonna start, Pete. And I'm going to start with a movie I had been meaning to watch for a while. It actually played here in Brazil a few years ago. Well, 2016 to be exact. So it came out about 2017, I think it was, in the Brazilian theaters. And I never got around to it. And it's James Baldwin's movie, I Am Not Your Negro. And I kind of got into this vibe, especially after watching The Five Bloods, and obviously with everything going on in the U.S. right now, we're kind of
Right.
in the revolutionary vibe.
Yeah.
And for those of you that don't know, James Baldwin was actually one of the first people that was trying to do a movie version of Malcolm X's autobiography, and then Spike Lee did that movie, as we know, but he used a lot of Baldwin's notes and the stuff that he was working on to make that movie. So the interesting thing about this man here, James Baldwin, is that although he never belonged to any group, let's say, and he goes into that in the movie, he never belonged to any group, but he was friends with a lot of powerful figures during the civil rights era and before. So this movie goes into his friendship with Martin Luther King. One second. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and a Medgar Evans, which I actually had never read much about Medgar Evans, so I found out a little bit about that. And I say it's a James Baldwin movie. He's been dead for a while now, but what it is that he narrates. Samuel L. Jackson narrates off of the last book that James Baldwin was working on, but he never finished. And it was supposed to be this book just about his friendship with these three men and what they meant to Black Americans during the period that they were alive. And you know something, guys, if you have not seen this one, check it out. Great educational movie, and you get to actually hear the words of the master James Baldwin, one of the great American authors of all time, and a guy who didn't take shit from anybody. I don't know. Do you know anything about James Baldwin? Are you a Baldwin fan, or is he popular in Canada? Pete, is Pete with us? Oh, Pete has gone off of the stream. The stream got drunk. Let me see where Pete is. He was on with us for a second. I'm gonna have to send him another invite link. Pete was like, "We're talking about black people. I'm out of here." I'm joking, guys. Pete's a nice dude. But let me try to send him another. Let me send him another link. And this is what happens when you go live, which is why I like to do the. Um, I don't always like to do lives because of this. But here we go. I sent him another invite link. There's Peter. And there you go, Peter. Turn off your camera if you can, unless you want to keep your camera on. But I'm going to add you to the stream. There's Pete right there on the side.
Yeah,
All
I'm back. So, can you maybe go back a bit and tell me about this movie that I've never heard of?
right. Sure. If you want to click off your camera, you can. But if not, you can stay with your camera on. Doesn't matter. Oh, there you go. And so, yeah, just short version. This is a movie about. It's taken from James Baldwin's final manuscript for a book that he was supposed to write. Okay, it's an unfinished book, and it's a kind of a visual essay type of book. It's narrated by Samuel L. Jackson, and he tells stories about his friendship with Medgar Evans, Malcolm X, and Martin Luther King Jr. And but also it kind of gives you a little bit of a biography of James Baldwin and how he was as a man, because we kind of know him as the mythical James Baldwin. And interesting movie. I mean, I think it digs into the humanity of some of these figures that have become so mythical because, I mean, we can't imagine what these people went through back at that time, really. So I really
Right.
enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. It wasn't like this documentary that blew me away, but it was a solid documentary that got me into the mind of both James Baldwin and the period, and just kind of tied it up with a nice lace and bow, and just presented it very well with the music and the narration and all the stuff that was going on at the time. But before you got knocked out, I was going to ask you, Pete, if in Canada, is James Baldwin a big deal, or do you guys
I've
ever talk about it?
never heard of them. Never heard of
Never
them.
heard of James Baldwin. Oh man, now I'm gonna kick you off the stream.
No.
Oh man, then definitely watch this movie, man. You're definitely gonna get enlightened, because this guy is considered, and not just
Yeah, no,
by
I will.
blacks. He's considered one of the great American writers, not just the black writers. Because Americans love to put little subcategories. But he's just considered one of the great American writers, and one of
Right.
the great debaters and one of the great voices of the civil rights era and beyond. And I don't know if you got kicked out during the part where I was saying that he's actually, because he was very close friends with Malcolm X, he was one of the first that was trying to sell this script to try to get the Malcolm X movie made. Didn't happen, but then when Spike Lee actually used a lot of his notes, a lot of the stuff that he was working on to get his movie made, the version of Malcolm X that we see on the screen. So he's a very powerful writer, very interesting personality, very iconoclastic, kind of hard to pin him down. One thing that the movie doesn't go into, and really almost nobody goes into, is his sexuality, which it's pretty clear. I mean, at least to me, it seems pretty clear that he was a gay man, but he never came out with it. And it's kind of strange that they always kind of keep
Right.
that undercover. But I think it's just a matter of it's a product of the time. I think given his position, he had a FBI file on him and everything. But given his position of being the storyteller, let's say, of the civil rights era, and as a man, I think that I don't think that him being gay would have helped. I think it was at a time where I don't think that that would have been something that would have been helpful for the movement. But I wish they would, because he wrote a book called Giovanni's Room, which talks about black male sexuality, and it's considered a classic among gay literature too. So I hope someday somebody decides to do a movie about James Baldwin and his sexual life, because it is important in the sense that in black sexuality is not something that's talked about as much as white sexuality, especially black homosexuality. And I talked a little bit about that last week, Pete, when I was doing this podcast about Spike Lee, because I talked about The Five Bloods, which I know you saw, so I'll get your opinion of The Five Bloods in a second. And then Inside Man and Bamboozled. And said in the podcast, one thing that Spike, I don't think he's ever touched, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, because I know you've seen a few Spike Lee movies, but he's never touched black male homosexuality in any of his movies, which I think is something that he should explore because he's so good at exploring black males and the different types of black males that there are, from like the wimpy ones, the crazy ones, the Republican, the Democrat ones, everything. But he's never explored that. And I think he would be really, a great director to explore that. I think he would make a movie better than Moonlight, at least. I wasn't a big fan of Moonlight. Um, but that was one of the first movies I've ever seen in my life that explored black male homosexuality. So I don't know if he ever has. But tell me, you really like The Five Bloods, right? Or is he knocked out again? Oh, guys, I'm just gonna go on, and we will get Pete's answer. Oh no, he's still on. What happened to Pete? Is Pete's mic muted? His microphone isn't connected, but he's there. Pete, your microphone is muted for whatever reason. So I think maybe when you clicked off your camera, you might have clicked off your mic at the same time, but your mic is muted, my friend. So you need to unmute it. I can't do it from here. Oh, there you go. Now you're back.
All right.
What
Now
do you
it's
think?
not.
What do you
Now
think
it's
of the
not.
Five Bloods?
Now it's not. All right. So yes, I loved the Five Bloods. It was a remake of the Treasure of the Sierra Madre. It was really the Treasure of the Sierra Madre. It was a step by step remake, but it was told from the point of view of Black Vietnam veterans. That was the only difference.
Well, yeah, it's funny you mention that because when I saw that you were watching The Producers, I said, well, you have to watch Bamboozled because that's a remake of The Producers, more or less, just from a black perspective.
And that was amazing.
Very good
Yeah.
movie. Very good movie. And that was the first
Yeah,
time.
and it did. That was a great
Yeah, guys. I
Yeah,
mean,
no, that was a great recommendation because I mean, like personally, as a mostly white person, I can see like
Mostly white.
the
Any
sick
black people?
humor in Bamboozled as just being funny.
What other race do you have in you? Are your great grandparents, did they mix with indigenous?
Just that.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that. Cool.
Yeah, yeah. Well, no, grandparents actually.
Oh,
Grandparents.
all
Yeah.
right. So Pete
But
is down with the movement.
like I can see. Sorry.
I said you're down with the movement. You got some indigenous in you. But go ahead.
Well, not exactly actually, because I think colonialism actually improved Canada a lot. Canada was not all that good under First Nations, and yeah, it improved a lot of things. And I wouldn't exist without colonialism, so I have to accept it. But
Yes.
in terms of bamboozled, um, I could see how, like, okay, it was funny, but I could see how deeply offensive, like, what was being portrayed was to a lot of people in a way that I couldn't see before. Like, I could see it through different eyes. So I appreciated that aspect of it.
Yeah, I think you wrote that like movies are meant to show you life from a different perspective. So this movie did it, and that's why I like to watch movies too. That's why I can watch. Um, I like to watch a movie made by a woman, or because I don't know what it's like to be a woman. So I see her, I can see what
Right.
her perspective is on the world. I'm like, okay, I never even considered that. Or one of my favorite movie makers, Woody Allen. He's coming from a Jewish perspective of things, and it's like people complain, oh, well, Woody Allen doesn't have enough black people in his movies, but why should he? He's a Jewish dude. He's gonna write about what he knows about being a neurotic Jew. So and it's like, okay,
Larry
I can
David. Larry David did the same thing.
Larry David. Um, I'll tell you that movie Blue Jasmine. I saw it here in São Paulo in the movie theater, and it was so great because I got to see a different perspective of something I didn't even think about. Because that movie is about this rich woman who's married to a very rich guy played by Alec Baldwin, I think. And this guy was fucking screwing around in the stock market during the crash. And then he lost everything, and she had to move with her sister, like live like a middle class house in California, and restart her life, trying to work. She had to find a job, work at a supermarket, and you know by the end of this movie, I was actually feeling for this, like the last person I want to feel any emotion for, some white elitist bitch, which is what she was portrayed as at the beginning of the movie. But I mean, that's the mastery of Woody Allen, obviously. But you know, he was able to get me to see life through these goggles that I never would have even thought to have seen life through. So yeah, movies are the best movies do that. I mean, obviously some movies are there just to entertain and they're just as good if the entertainment value is high. Speaking of which, Aliens coming up. We're doing a ranking of the Aliens movie. So
Yes.
don't forget to like and
Yes.
subscribe to this
I have
page.
I have 4 movies to watch before I start Aliens, but
That's fine.
I will get through them quickly.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, so we're doing Aliens. There's a Predator one on the page already that I did with a buddy of mine, Jeremy, which was really fun, and we got a lot of views on that. So hopefully the Alien one will be just as fun, and we'll get a lot of views on that. Yeah, so some movies are there just to entertain, and they're wonderful too. But the movies that really touch you are the ones that make you go, "Oh, that's what it's like for this other person. I never thought of that before." So yeah, I recommend this one, Pete. It's a quick watch. I think it's an hour and 20 minutes or something. It's not a very long movie.
I'll watch
Um,
it.
you can knock it out real quickly. But let's move on to now what Pete was watching in the last week, and I believe it's Perry Mason again.
All right.
But tell us
Yeah.
about
So,
Perry Mason.
all right. First of all, just look at that picture. He looks like he hasn't bathed in 3 weeks. And not only that, but he is with Shea Wiggum from Boardwalk Empire. Um, these are like pretty much the two scummiest white actors you could come across. Um, I don't know. If you haven't had exposure to Perry Mason, it's very difficult to explain how weird this show is because I read the books when I was a kid and I watched the TV show with Raymond Burr.
Yes, I
And
watched those.
Perry Mason, Perry Mason, the books and the TV show, they're about a lawyer. They're about a lawyer who doesn't lose. He's a defense lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
His arch enemy is the district attorney. He's constantly trying to bone his secretary, but she doesn't accept him. And he has this cracker ass private investigator who does work for him. In this show, the narrative is completely flipped. Perry Mason is not a lawyer; he's a gumshoe, post World War One veteran with a severe case of PTSD, played by Matthew Rise, looking like he hasn't bathed in weeks. His private investigator is actually a black cop. She's more or less there. Um, his boss is played by the fuck out of everybody in Dexter, and now nobody can get that out of their heads. And the story revolves around a dead baby.
A dead baby. There's a Perry
Yes,
Mason that
yes.
we all
The
grew up on.
Yeah, yeah, no. The story begins with a baby is kidnapped from a rich couple and held for ransom, and they find it with its eyes sewn shut. It's
Oh, that's
like so
disgusting.
creepy and disturbing, and we're about that's 5 minutes into the series, and then we get deeper into it, and the husband is implicated in the kidnapping. But it turns out that, well, so far, like I said, I'm only 3 episodes into it, but it turns out that his wife is actually more likely to have been involved in it, and she gets arrested, and there's like a religion aspect, and there's
Let
all
me
this
ask
other stuff
you,
going on. But
Pete, this show takes place around
yeah, go
what
ahead.
period? What period does this show take place in? Because I remember the 1980s Perry Mason,
um
and it's kind of current
yeah, no,
1980s.
I would say it's about 1920.
Oh yeah, because I looked at this picture because I hadn't even I had seen that you said that you were watching Perry Mason and how different it was, but I didn't care enough to even Google it until now. You said you wanted to talk about it, and I was shocked when I saw the picture. I was like, "Wait, this is Perry Mason?" Because I was expecting, like you said, the Raymond Burr,
Yeah,
guy.
no, he's not a lawyer. He's not a
Yeah,
lawyer. He's a gumshoe. He's a total
that's interesting.
fucking
I might check this out.
like
Maybe this
Humphrey
is this
Bogart type gumshoe.
is this like young Perry Mason, like the young Indiana Jones Chronicles? Like maybe before he became a lawyer, he was a
I think
gumshoe.
so. I think so because there's all this stuff leading up to like okay, how the hell did Perry Mason become this super lawyer? And I think this is his background story.
Hmm. I might check that out. I always enjoy these shows. My mom used to watch these. She loved like Columbo, Kojak, Perry Mason. These very formulaic shows, but that were well
Yeah,
written though. They were solid. You know, they're just these solid
yeah,
shows. You knew what you were getting, but they were all pretty solid. Matlock was another
and
one.
this kind of yeah, and this kind of flips the Perry Mason narrative on the head because if you ever saw the Raymond Burr show, like Perry Mason never lost. Like the district attorney would go 0 for 21 in the season.
Hmm.
He always had like the murder suspect, and Perry Mason would always prove them innocent. In this one, Perry Mason is the loser, man. He's such a bum.
All right, so it's the lead up to how he became a super lawyer. Yeah, no, these lawyers never lost. Never lost a case. That was the
Yeah,
whole thing. You know, like Columbo always found always found the killer. Matlock always figured his shit out. Uh, but they were good shows. I mean, you were just kind of forced to watch them. At least I was because my mom would watch it. But I might check it out. I haven't had the patience to watch a series in a while though. Was started the first 5 minutes of The Witcher, but then I turned it off. I got to go back to it because I downloaded it, so I might as well watch it. But I haven't been in the mindset for a series. So I've been watching a lot of movies, some that I had never seen before, and some new ones. But all right, I'll check that out, guys. So that's a good recommendation, Perry Mason. And I think the crux of Pete's argument here is don't think it's going to be that fogey old show from the '80s that your grandma would make you watch because Perry Mason's on. Um, Definitely taking it to a more modern level and digging a little bit deeper into the man. So let's go one more that I saw that you had seen. And what is this one with Tom Hanks?
Greyhound. Greyhound.
Not the bus. It's
Yes,
not the
I will
Victorian
tell
bus.
you one thing about this. One thing about this movie is that it really made me appreciate Tom Hanks the man, not Tom Hanks the actor. I mean, first of all, it's an amazeball movies. Like, if you had seen it on the big screen, it's just boats blowing the fucking shit out of each other. I mean, you can't argue with that. I mean, it's a giant 90-minute naval battle. It doesn't fuck around. It's only 90 minutes. It's quick. It's short. It's boats blowing the fuck out of each other. But what I realized when I was watching this is that Tom Hanks has been doing these movies for like 25 years where they're never bad. And it's not because he's such a great actor, it's just because he has good taste. He knows, like, okay, this is going to be a good movie. And what I found really amazing is that the guy got fucking coronavirus. He got detained in Australia with his wife
Yep.
for like
Hmm.
6 weeks or whatever. And when he found out that this movie wasn't getting a theatrical release, he was like, "No, this yeah, actually, it would look amazing on the big screen. Just a bunch of it's basically like the U.S. fleet, U.S. and British fleet battling U-boats.
Yeah, I gotta check this one out. I've been seeing a lot of posts about it, and but how would you rate this story outside of just the visuals? Is it a good story? Because I am in the super minority probably as far as the movie Dunkirk, which was also promoted that way. Like, oh my God,
I
it's
hated Dunkirk.
amazing. Oh, good, thank you. I'm not alone. Because I was like, this the story was like there was no story really. It was like so thin. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
it's beautiful to watch, I guess. Like the visuals are nice, the sound effects are nice, but I'm just kind of bored with it. So is there like an
Yeah.
actual story here?
Um, no, no. There's not much story.
Okay.
It's basically like the the fleet is protecting supply ships. Many of them troop supply ships, and there are U-boats trying to blow them up. And like you can
Hmm.
actually you can keep it. I did keep it scorecard. I was like, shit, they got four. They got four. Um, but yeah, it's basically like supply ships and support versus U-boats. That's it. But it's super intense. Like you can feel it. And um, another thing about it that is probably not much talked about is that all the black officers on the ship are cooks. They're cooks.
Yeah.
They're not officers. They're not serving in the Navy. But if that boat goes down, they're gonna fucking die too. So you bet your ass they're equally concerned.
Yeah, no, but that's how it was on a lot of these boats. Actually, that's one of the few things as far as historical accuracy with that movie Pearl Harbor. They had the black people down on the lower decks making the food, which is just the way it was at that time. The
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll check that out because I do like me a good either submarine or naval movie. But it just has to have a little bit of a story. I like that movie he did. Speaking of naval movie, well, not naval, but on a ship. That was it, Captain Jack, or no, that's a Billy Joel song. What's the movie where he was like on a boat and like these pirates took over his boat?
Oh yeah, I know that one. I can't
Captain
remember the title
Swallow,
either,
Captain
but it was the one
Phillips.
with the fucking Somalia.
Yes, Captain
Captain
Phillips.
something. Captain
Captain
something.
Phillips.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah, yeah,
name.
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
That
that
was
was
a
good. I like seeing all the Somalians die actually. That was well
that was
deserved.
a that was a good movie. And did they all die at the end? Did they get
Yeah.
killed? By whom?
Yeah, they did. They assassinated them.
Oh, I didn't know that. Well, I just forgot it. Yeah, but that was a pretty intense movie with Tom Hanks, and I agree with you. Like Tom Hanks, I mean, I wouldn't say he's not a good actor, but he's kind of just hit this stride. He's like on cruise control. Like he's been Tom Hanks pretty much. I don't know if they won those Oscars for like Forrest Gump and maybe Philadelphia, like well, back-to-back Oscars. I've never seen a role of his. Well, maybe that one where he's on the island, that Castaway. It's just that movie's kind of silly. I'm not a huge fan of
Castaway,
that
yeah.
movie. But he kind of
Yeah,
acted,
but I
quote
mean,
unquote, on that.
he
But
is
he's been Tom
always
Hanks.
Tom Hanks.
Yeah, he's been Tom Hanks forever.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know. But
He's
but
not
the thing
like a
is,
Daniel Day Lewis or Denver who can transform themselves.
but he's a
He's
good. The
always
thing is,
gonna be like,
but what saves him is that Tom Hanks, like just Tom Hanks, the guy. Like if you see interviews with him, is such a personable guy. He's like so charismatic that
yeah,
you just
exactly.
how can I like him? You know, he just how can you not like Tom Hanks? He's just like that nice
And
guy.
and not only that, but he picks good movies. Like maybe he's not the best thing about the movie, but he's like, okay, I'm rich enough and I have enough status that I can pick a good movie to be in, and I want that integrity. And I think that's one of the things about his movies that I really appreciate. Like, okay, he's not the best thing about it. His performance is not great, but he picked this movie, so I know it's going to be good.
Yeah, pretty much like that with Tom Hanks. I mean, I guess I'm not a huge fan of those Da Vinci Code movies, but for the most part,
No,
he doesn't pick too many bad movies. He's always in something,
No.
even if it's a small movie. What's that one that I saw a couple years ago? It's another Captain movie, the one where he has to land the ship on the Hudson River, or not the ship, the plane. Um,
Oh, the one directed by Clint Eastwood. Yes,
oh,
yes. I don't remember the name of that movie
Sully,
either. But
Sully.
yeah, that was a yes, yes. That was an amazing movie.
Yeah, I like
Amazing.
that one. Yeah, it's not a bombastic movie, but it just gets the job done, which is kind of Clint Eastwood style,
No,
anyway.
no, it was very Clint Eastwood actually. It
Yeah.
was subtle. Subtle.
Yep. Very subtle. Yeah, but I dug that one. I dug Sully. So yeah, he's just kind of does these movies, uh, picks the good scripts, and they're just solid, you know. And but I'll tell you something about Tom Hanks though that I miss, which is the crazy Tom Hanks, man. Because I grew up on Tom Hanks. You know, well, you're a little older than me, so you obviously remember this, like the Tom Hanks of the '80s. You know, like the Money Pit and. Oh, what was another one that I really liked with him? Dragnet, you know, where he was just crazy, he was wild, and then I don't know. Once he got into quote unquote serious roles, he just kind of left that version of Tom Hanks behind, and I really miss it. I'm like, that's the Tom Hanks that I wish would come back and just do straight up comedies. Like, can you think of a Tom Hanks comedy in the last 20 years? Other than like the romantic, like Sleepless in Seattle or You Got Mail type bullshit? I can't think of one.
That was not in the last 20 years. But
Well,
yeah,
30,
no.
20 to 30. Since
Yeah,
92,
if you want to,
94.
yeah, no, not really. But if you want to look up some hilarious Tom Hanks stuff, look up Tom Hanks slapping Michael J. Fox.
I'll look that up later. I might like that. But no, he's a really great comedic actor. He's got great comedic timing, but he just kind of left it in the background for these, the Money Pit, the Burbs is pretty good.
Right.
Um, let me
But you
see.
even get movies like this probably pay a whole lot more.
Well, that's true too. Let me see. Nothing in Common I've never seen. But we got Punchline. Yeah, he had a lot of great movies in the 80s.
I
But
saw
then he just,
Splash in the theaters.
what is it called? Splat?
Splash, the one
Oh,
with Daryl
Splash.
Hannah where
Yes,
she's a
Splash
mermaid.
with Hannah. What was her name? Hannah. Who's the porn actor? No, she
Daryl
wasn't a porn.
Hannah.
Daryl Hannah. Yes. Yeah. But then he got his Best Actor Oscar in Philadelphia in 1993. Followed it up with Forrest Gump, and then he did, Saving Private
And that
Ryan.
was
And
it. That was it.
that was it. Like he just changed after he got in with Steven Spielberg. Saving Private Ryan, Catch Me If You Can, which is a great movie. Bridge of Spies, The
That was
Post
an
was
awesome
good.
movie. Yeah.
Yeah, The Post I really liked. But he did these romantic comedies, Sleepless in Seattle, You've Got Mail with Meg Ryan. Not a super fan of, but A League of Their Own is pretty good. That's like a little bit of crazy Tom Hanks. But I wish he would get back to a role like that. I would really enjoy it a lot because I thought he was a really funny comedic actor. But he's dropped that either for
I
the
think
money.
I think the Mister Rogers movie came close to that. Did you see the Mister Rogers movie?
I didn't because I had seen the documentary, which was really good. Can I Be Your Neighbor? I think is the name of the documentary. So I just skipped it, but I should watch
Yeah,
it at some point. But yeah, I'll check it out at some point. But I'm glad
yeah,
you
because
liked it.
and that's actually super relevant. That's actually super relevant because Matthew Rhys was the lead actor in that movie, and Tom Hanks was like second billing.
Hmm, I didn't know that. But I'll check it out.
Yeah,
I'll check this movie out probably this weekend because I have nothing on the docket to watch. So let's round it out, guys. And my computer is saying, "I'm sorry, Phil. I'm afraid I can't do that. I'm afraid we can't talk about the next movie." And this next movie, as we all know, 1968, the classic 2001: A Space Odyssey. And as I was telling Pete before the broadcast, it's one of those movies that I know I've seen, but it's like in mega quotes because it's always I've seen maybe 20-minute chunks of it here, another 30-minute chunks of it there, another 10-minute chunks of it there, and together I've seen the movie, right? But I've never actually just sat down, okay, from minute one until minute, 2 hours and 30 minutes later. And that's what I did this weekend. Because I'm like, how could I have not seen 2001? And especially being a Kubrick fan. So I watched it,
I
and
love Kubrick. Kubrick's my favorite director.
oh, I didn't know he was your favorite. Although I did, I'll tell you in a second. There was another movie of his that I tried to watch, but I wasn't that big of a fan of. But I didn't finish it. I'll try watching it again. Um, but man, I really loved it. I was shocked that it was 1968. I thought it was a little bit later. I thought it was 1970 something. But how beautiful it looked for 1968 and how it still holds up is pretty incredible. And just, I mean, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it because I'm sure most people have seen it already. But in case there are some of you that haven't, watch it. You just have to be prepared for a few things. One, it's a slow fucking movie, so it's not one of those that you're gonna put on if
Yeah,
you came home from
yeah, it's
work and you're a
really
little
slow.
tired. Yeah, it's one of those that you have to pay attention to. So watch it when you're not tired, when you don't have the kids screaming or anything, because you got to really pay attention to it. Kubrick actually, he didn't give too many interviews, but I caught a few things on Google where he was saying that on purpose they tried to make the movie as quiet as possible, try to keep us because they're in space,
Yeah,
which is nice that it's one of the few space movies
yeah,
where they show the space scenes, you don't hear anything, which I'm sure
yeah,
what's his name? Um, the guy from Neil deGrasse Tyson must appreciate that a lot because he's always ragging on these movies. But yes, it's a very quiet movie.
yeah,
I mean, the whole first act of it, with the apes, with the pre-humans, there's no
yeah,
talking, there's nothing. So that's the first thing that I would say is just be prepared to really watch this movie. It's not something that you put up just on the background. And two, also really pay attention to what's going on because the stories are connected. The ape story, the
yeah,
middle story where they find the same thing that they found back in the ape planet on with the apes. They well, I don't want to give a spoiler to a 1968 movie, but they find the same thing on the moon that they found in the prehistoric times, and then it jumps forward to like 10 years later, where apparently they've deciphered or they've discovered that there's a message coming from this monolith or whatever, and they're going out to the moon
yeah,
of not the moon, the where are they going to Saturn, the rings of Saturn, and that's where you get the
yeah,
HAL part, the classic HAL computer
yeah.
gets a little nutty.
That's the iconic part.
That's the what?
The iconic part.
I think that's the part most people know of the movie. That at least as a kid, that's the only part I kind of knew. I knew that there were some apes involved, and I knew the ape threw a
Yeah,
bone in the air, and
apes
then
in
I was like,
hell. Apes in hell.
apes and how, and then I in that middle part apparently is the part that I had never seen, which was enlightening for me because I had seen the apes part, I had seen big chunks and pieces of the last part up to the end, so I knew how it was going to end, but I missed the middle part. So in my mind, it's funny how we create the movie in our mind. I had imagined that like
Yeah,
the ape would throw that bone in the air and it would transform into the
yeah,
spaceship. Like, okay, human evolution. We went from the apes to the spaceship going to Saturn because the spaceship is kind of oblong. It's kind of shaped like a bone. So I thought that was some Kubrick artistic element of like showing the evolution of man. And that ship is long as hell. I had I had always
Yeah,
thought that in Spaceballs, that first scene of Spaceballs where that spaceship just keeps going and going and going. I always thought it was a joke. I mean, it is a joke based on Star Wars, but I think it could have been even more towards 2001 because so I'm watching this ship. It just never ends. I'm like, wait, this is like Spaceballs.
yeah.
Because the Star Destroyers are long, but they don't last as long as the one in this movie. It just keeps going and going and going. And you're like, wait a second, where's the tail end of this
No,
bitch?
what got me was the ending. The ending where the guy is like being dissected and being taken apart and shit. I actually had to look that shit up on Wikipedia. I was like, what the fuck happened there? Like, I don't
Who's
get
being
it.
dissected? Are you
And
thinking of the sequel?
yeah,
No, no, I didn't watch the
yeah,
sequel.
yeah.
Yeah, because he didn't get dissected
And
in this one.
thankfully,
He aged.
Wik- yeah, Wikipedia is the source of all knowledge. And it basically said, yeah, he was being taken apart by aliens. That's what was happening there.
Well,
Sorry
yeah,
if you
that
didn't
part.
get that. So
You know, I I will
I
pat
felt
myself in the
stupid.
back. Pete, I'm gonna pat myself in the back because I'm one of those people that I mean I pretty much get movies, but sometimes I'm like, huh? And I kind of got this one. I didn't think it was that difficult to understand. It was just like, okay, he these alien creatures implanted this thing on. Actually, I thought it was kind of beautiful and kind of intelligent the way that it was written because these alien creatures put this thing on Earth, and it's like when humans become intelligent or capable enough, that's when we can take them to the next level. Which I thought was really intelligent because a lot of times in these alien invasion movies or even just alien contact movies the alien wants to make contact with us now. And we're fucking stupid now. Like, I don't think any alien would want to contact
Right,
us now, because we're ready to like kill each other
right.
and like do stupid shit. So I like that idea of, look, we're planting this thing on here on the planet and we don't know what that thing does because apparently when the ape touched it that's when he got this little evolutionary bump because that's when he started making the weapons and then when they're on the moon the scene kind of cuts right when that very high pitched like almost like a dog whistle sound and then it cuts and then you're going to Saturn. So something about that monolith gave whoever touched it or came in contact with it a little elevated brain power or something. And that was kind of like these aliens' way of like baby stepping us, like weaning us into the next evolutionary step. And then he gets to the place, where they have that trippy, LSD, going through the wormhole sequence, which Star Trek: The Motion Picture tried to rip off with Spock.
Right.
And then he's there, and then
Mm.
he ages in the wherever they keep him. They made something that felt comfortable for him,
Yeah,
so he didn't feel like he was in such an
yeah,
alien place. And then he took the next evolutionary step, which is to become like a space baby. But whatever, whatever for that.
yeah,
But for me, it didn't
yeah.
feel like it was like this hard movie. I mean, when I think hard movies, I'm thinking David Lynch. Okay, those movies are like, what the fuck is he trying to say? But this one
Yeah,
I
fucking
thought was pretty.
Mulholland Drive. I know you're a big fan of Mulholland Drive, but I fucking hate that movie.
Oh,
I
really? I
hate
love
that
it.
movie with a passion.
I love it.
If I have to look up what a movie means on Wikipedia, that's over. That's over.
Mm. Yeah, David Lynch kind of leaves you like that with most of his movies. But I dug it. The thing with Lynch, and I don't want to get too deep with on David Lynch, is that he obscures the details in most of his movies, but I think for the most part, you get the main idea of what the movie's about. Like I got the main idea of what Mulholland Drive was about, but yeah, there's details in there that I think are always going to be like, what the fuck is he trying to say with this? But the main idea is there, and then he just carries that mood throughout the movie. Like most of his movies are like that. Like
Yeah,
the one.
well, that's his thing. His thing is like I'm not going to explain anything. It's like, oh, aren't you a clever director? You're not going to
Uh,
explain anything. So we have to we have to figure it out for ourselves, which
y-
I respect. I understand where you're coming from, but that's
yeah,
still totally fucking stupid.
yeah. No, I totally get people that don't dig in, and it's weird with him because I'll be honest, I'm not a huge fan of. I guess you call that surrealist, because I think a lot of it is like modern art.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like somebody puts an apple on the table. That's art. In fact, I'll tell you a funny story. I was teaching English here in Sao Paulo at an art gallery, and every day, as part of the class, I would take the student around the gallery, or he would take me around the gallery, really, and we would role play, and he would practice. Oh, this is a painting by so and he's from here, and I'm pointing at stuff. Oh, and what's that? And then I pointed to something, and I was like, oh, and what's that? And he's like, that's the cardboard that the painting came in. Because it was a modern no, because it was a modern art gallery, and there were some pieces that were like, it was just a TV set, and it, like, that's the piece,
right.
and it's like a pencil with, like, on top of a table, and that's the piece. So I'm like, oh, what are those? That pile of cardboard there is really nice. What is that? And he's like, we just didn't get a chance to throw that in the garbage yet. So I feel that way with surrealist movies, where a lot of it is just like somebody that just doesn't know how to tell a story. So they're just, shaking the camera a lot and showing us pretty colors. But yet, I don't know. It's almost, I don't know, who was it? Was it Pat Buchanan? I forgot what American politician was really anti-porn. So to the point where he wanted to cover up statues, like Statue of David, needed. Uh, so, or no, I'm telling the story wrong. He was really anti-porn, and then somebody asked him, "What is porn? Like, are we going to have to cover up statues and stuff like that?" And he just said, "You know it when you see it." Porn when you see it. And although people make fun of that line, but you kind of do. If you watch a movie and there's a few naked butts or even a frontal nudity, depending on the context, you understand, okay, even if it's a pseudo erotic scene, okay, this is not porn. That's porn if I go to Pornhub or whatever.
Right,
And I don't know, something
right.
about surrealism and even modern art, which, I don't hate completely. You can kind of tell, okay, I can see where that's trying to be artistic or trying to show something or trying to make a point, and that isn't. And Lynch just manages to do that for me. I can understand if he doesn't manage to do that to other people, where they're like, okay, how is this a movie? Like, where's the plot? Where's the logic? Where's the anything? So I think
Yeah,
what
Lost Highway is another one.
it's another one that I dug. But I'll tell you something. It's like Picasso. I'll give you an example with Picasso. Because you look at his paintings and you're like, what the fuck is this shit, right? But the truth is in the details. And what is the detail? Look at Picasso before he became an expressionist, a cubist artist. And the motherfucker could really paint. Okay? He really had talent. So I
Yeah,
think that's where I measure it, because I've seen Lynch, like you watch The Elephant Man, you watch even
The
the first
Elephant Man
half.
is my favorite Lynch film,
Yeah, or
hands
even the
down, hands down. The Elephant Man is my top 100, and Blue Velvet actually.
really, you like to see, that's one I'm not a huge fan of, Blue Velvet. But you notice when you watch The Elephant Man, or even the first half of Mulholland Drive, which it's told kind of straight because it was supposed to be a TV show
Yeah,
before
the
it wasn't
first
picked
half is
up.
actually really good.
Yeah, and guess what? That's where I can trust when Lynch goes surrealist, because I know that he actually knows how to tell a story. The straight story is another example. He knows what he's doing. Like, he's not just a guy that doesn't know how to tell a straight story and just, puts the camera on somebody's ass cheek and says this is a movie. Um, so even in his more surrealist movies, I still feel a threat. I still feel okay. This is a guy that has absolute command of what he's doing, whether it's from the sound editing, his ability to create a mood in a scene, his camera angles. Like, no, this is like a director on the same level as any other great director from Kubrick to uh, what's his name, Scorsese, whatever. Like he knows what the fuck he's doing. He just happens to kind of take a few magic mushrooms along the way, and his movies get all twisted. But
Yeah,
Lynch is a whole other topic, and I totally respect people that don't get him, or not. Shouldn't say don't get him because that makes it feel like you don't understand the guy. Don't like him is better, and people that do, and that swear by him. I happen to enjoy a lot of his
right.
movies. He's not like my favorite director, although Mulholland Drive probably was my favorite movie of that decade, and I was happy when it ended up on a lot of publications' list as the top movie of the is it 2000s or 2010s? I forgot now. But I saw that one in the theater, and I was just immersed in that motherfucking movie. I was like, "What the hell?" And then later I had to kind of think about it, and then I did do a little bit of research to help me figure it out a little bit. But I kind of got the idea, because it's really the real movie is the
Yeah,
end of the
you
movie. Because the actual movie is the end of the
yeah.
movie. That's what
What
really
did
happened.
what the fuck did I just watch?
Yeah, no, the first movie, Lynch managed to make the best. It was all just a dream sequence, like you were watching Dallas, and it was like the whole season was a dream. He managed to take the it was just a dream trope and actually make it work. Like she just went to Hollywood, got fucked up, like just got all drugged up. Things didn't work for her,
All
and the
right,
first half of
dude.
the movie
All right,
is
got you back.
it's her
All
imagining
right,
of
dude.
what that beautiful, like she becomes, because if you notice, if you I don't know if you'll ever watch the movie again, but if you watch it again, pay attention to the second half and look at the background characters. Look at the lady who in the first half of the movie she becomes kind of her best friend slash lover. She's actually the lady who is her competition and who the director actually likes and who's sleeping with the director. So in her subconscious, she creates this imaginary vision of her journey through Hollywood where she helps this desperate young woman who needs her, and she's going to discover this mystery, and she auditions for the part and gets the part because she's the best, because it's exactly the opposite of what really happened, which in Lynch really hates Hollywood. He make like most of his movies really bash the whole Hollywood system and how it treats actresses and how it treats people in general. So that last 30 minutes of the movie is what the actual story is, what actually happened up to the point where she shot herself, and then she just recreated a fantasy version of her magical journey through Tinseltown. Um, and I just love it. I just love it. You know, and it's a lot of dream logic because when you have sometimes you'll see something in your peripheral vision, but then you'll dream about it at night because it somehow entered into your subconscious. You just weren't aware of it, and then you're dreaming about it, or something somebody says to you that just stays in your mind, and you're still thinking about it a week later, and you're so I dig Mulholland Drive. I think it was one of his better movies because it blended both his straight storytelling ability with his what do you call it? It blended his straight storytelling ability with
Surreal
his
narrative. Surreal narrative.
surreal narrative. Yeah, and Lost Highway is more or less the same thing. Because that's another movie that kind of splits in half, where he goes to jail and all of a sudden he's being let out of jail as this young man. But it's like the split. Because there's this thing in psychology that says when somebody suffers a trauma so great, they can actually become a different person. Like they just in their mind they become another person. So that second half of that movie is just his version of what he wants or wishes his life was, had it not been the life that it was, which is kind of shitty, and he probably killed his own wife. And then, and it's funny that they got the dude in there that plays the devil, and he actually did kill his own wife. What's that actor's name?
Yeah, yeah. And actually, the villain in that was, yeah,
The Mystery Man, played by Robert Blake, who later actually did end up
Robert
killing.
Blake. Robert
Yeah,
Blake.
that's a scary scene, man. Oh man, that scene gets me every time. Where he's at the party. It's Pullman plays the husband, um, and then he's
That's
like,
right. That's right. Yeah.
I'm I'm he's like, who are you? It's like, what did he say? He said something like, I'm in your house. In fact, I'm in your house right now. And he's like, what are you talking about? He's like, here, call me. And man, I get shivers just thinking of this. And then he calls his own house and he hears Robert Blake's voice. I'm there. It's like, wait, what is going on? But that character represents
Yeah,
Pullman's.
Robert Blake is a scary motherfucker, man.
Oh yeah, that's a scary fucking scene. That the Mystery Man scene. But again, it's just Lynch loves to deal with this stuff, with this shit on psychology, because what he's trying to show
Yeah.
is Mystery Man is our dark side. In Pullman's dark side is that he really wanted to kill his wife. I think maybe he thought she was cheating on him. So the darkness, it was with him everywhere. It was even in his house when he was not at his house at this party. So that's why he's like, call me and I'm gonna answer the phone. And it's like, oh man. So I don't know, man. Lynch can get it from me. He's
Right.
done some interesting stuff. But some of it I get you. It's like, what, like, just what the hell are you going on about? But anyway, so yes, if you have not seen 2001, we went on a bit of side journey here, which is fine. But if you have not seen 2001, highly recommend it. It's not really that difficult of a movie to watch because I think some people get turned off by it. But oh my god, it's one of those
Yeah,
difficult
I
movies.
just I just
Not
don't like
really.
having to look up a movie on Wikipedia.
Hmm? Say
Yeah.
that again, because you cut out. Can you say that again? Because you cut out. Hello, Peter. Peter cut out a little bit. I think we got one.
It is difficult, but I would still say recommended.
I think Pete said he recommends it. It's cutting out
I
a
would
little bit. I think.
say it is difficult.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I would
Okay.
say that it is difficult, but it is recommended. Recommended.
Okay. So Pete said that he would say
Yeah,
it's a
I'm
bit
here.
difficult, but he recommends it because you're cutting
Yeah,
out a little bit.
yeah, still here. I would say it's difficult, but
Oh,
recommended.
cool. Yeah. No, it's an interesting movie. It's an interesting movie, and especially if you're a fan of science
Yeah, I
fiction.
said it is difficult, but recommended.
Yeah, and especially if you like science fiction and just visual effects. For that reason alone, watch it. And the music is great. All the symphonic music that he puts in there.
All right,
Um,
maybe it's the other night.
yeah, it just his attention to detail, everything. I mean,
Yeah,
everything just kind of works. Oh, excuse me, works in this movie in a really special way, and you can understand why
yeah,
it's
yeah.
considered
And
a classic.
honestly, it's too iconic not to miss.
Yes, it's one of those. But then again, I'm gonna get into now. I'm gonna make Peter angry because a movie that I did try to watch of his that I just couldn't get into
Yeah, yeah.
was a
I think it's an iconic movie. It, it really is.
Clockwork Orange. I fell asleep. I'm gonna try watching it again, but it just didn't grab me. A Clockwork Orange. I'm gonna try watching it again at some point. But I'll get that to it at some point. Well, I think we have one person watching. If you're there and you're watching, thank you.
Oh,
And
oh, oh.
uh-oh, what's happening to Pete? Are you getting butt fucked, Peter? I don't know what's happening to Peter.
Yeah, I'm here.
What happened? Why are you screaming?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
All
I'm
right.
here. I'm here.
All right. Okay, guys. So the end of this podcast turned out
Phased up
this
for a second. Oh,
this
bollocks.
the end of this
Yeah,
podcast is turning out
yeah.
like
No,
a
I'm
David
still
Lynch
here.
movie. The end of this podcast is sounding like a David Lynch movie. It's very surreal at the moment. I don't know what's happening to Pete. Sounds like he's being attacked by something. Um, but anyhow,
Yeah.
thank you guys for watching. We're gonna go off now.
Yeah,
Please don't forget to like and
I know.
subscribe. Are you
Yeah.
are we getting a delay or something? I think we're on a delay because you're reacting to stuff like a minute later. See, I think we're getting a delay because he's probably gonna say something like right now as I'm about to
Yeah,
talk.
it might be. I don't know.
Yeah, see?
Yeah,
All right, Peter. Well, I'm gonna
things are getting a little weird around here.
I'm gonna I'm gonna sign off. So don't say anything anymore because you're on a mega delay. So I'll say goodbye for you. So guys, it was really nice to have Pete on. He's gonna be back because I love Pete. He's a crazy motherfucker, but I love him. And don't forget that we have our Star Wars rankings coming up, and we have a Star Trek ranking coming up, and and me and him are gonna be watching the Alien movies. So that's gonna be coming up. So watch out for those. And we've hit the hour mark, so that's enough for us. So good night, everybody. Good night, Pete. Although you'll probably only answer me in about a minute.
Cheers,
Uh,
Phil.
oh
Pleasure
no, you're
talking to
there.
you as always.
All right, Pete. Uh, I hope you are able to get that dick out of your ass or whatever attacked you.
Yeah, I'll try. I'll try.
All right, dude. Until next time. And next Monday, guys, we'll be back. Okay, so let's be consistent with this one. Until next time. Bye bye.
All right.